Here we go.
Do it.
Okay, cool.
Here we go.
Welcome back to Coffin Talkin', where we unravel the mysteries, embrace the peculiar, and find humor in the unconventional world of funerals and death. And I guess I should say welcome back to Phone a Funeral, because this is its own little thing.
Yeah.
We have Frank and Scott here, of course.
Hi.
Hello.
They've secured their spots. Won't be fired anytime soon.
Once again, we're back. Mm-hmm.
Once again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How are you guys doing?
Good. I'm good.
What did your week look like this week, Frank?
A lot of traveling, and it was kind of odd that fictitious Lisa made a comment to me the other night that because I was telling her about one of the days, and I said, yeah, 2 people showed up just to say hi and talk to me, see how I was doing, and she asked, who's that? And I said, oh, people we've handled those services for in the past. And she made a comment like, that's unusual. Is that unusual? Would you think that's unusual? I just think that they do it because they feel comfortable with me. They come in and talk and just see how I'm doing, and
that's kind of nice.
It's nice. It is nice.
I feel like there's so I'm part of this Facebook group that's like ask the embalmer and funeral professional a question, just because I promoted the podcast on it. But anyways,
wow, yeah,
yeah,
that's fine. That's fine.
Well done.
But one of the questions that I saw this week was like, well, they phrased it and they said, I'm not trying to be offensive, but why are all funeral professionals really creepy and standoffish? So I feel like that's really a good sign that people want to come back and talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
That you're not the typical kind of
digger, undertaker, mortician, embalmer.
Sure.
Hey, Scott, was that one of the questions for today?
Yeah, kind of offended that Holly's already started it without passing it over to me. So.
Yikes.
Oh.
I'm going to take that one off the list.
In a second.
Right, okay.
No, I could expand on that.
That was the only question I had on that one.
Yeah, I think
that would be kind of a fun one to expound on.
Yeah, you could start with that one and expound.
No, not yet. Scott, how was your week?
Oh, it was good. I was going to say that just 2.5 minutes ago, people heard the intro music. And have you ever noticed how there's that guy in there?
Yeah.
That says, this is special. Yeah. Oh. I kind of want to be that guy. I don't know. I hear it every week and I'm like, oh man, that's such a fun little.
This is special.
Yeah. So anyway, maybe I'll just say that is me.
Maybe the producer could insert, Scott, this is special. for the phone of funeral. Insert the name Scott. Gosh. Scott, this is special.
Or this is Scott.
Oh, I think I would like that less.
Scott, you're special.
Oh man. No, it was a good week though. I was telling Frank and Holly before the call started, so they've heard this, but went to the lake with some friends yesterday, and I'm still I think I got a little burned, but it was a good day. So if my voice sounds a little, I think it does. It just listening to myself.
I was going to mention it sounds kind of like you're congested or something. You might have just gotten sick. I feel like whenever I'm out in the sun the next day, I feel really drained.
Yeah, I do feel a little drained, and I swallowed a bunch of lake water. So that maybe that has something to do with it.
Well, we're glad you're still with us, Scott.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
In fact, it was so bad. And we were doing wakeboarding and wake surfing. And it was so fun. But I told the people on the boat that, and I said, maybe I'll get like a really cool lake related superpower. And they'll call me
what would that
Man.
be?
I could communicate with the creatures in the lake or something. Only in that lake though. So might not be very fun, but
was it busy at the lake? Was there a lot of people there?
There were a lot of people, but it's still, I mean, it's it's a huge lake, and so it's good enough to be. I mean, you can always find your own spot to create the wakes that you need, things like that, swim around. So,
do you think it's because of the end of the summer's coming?
Probably, yeah. I think I have definitely seen it more busy. Yeah.
Although Caden and I were talking about this yesterday because you told us that you were going to the lake, and I guess that's a huge perk of Arizona is when everyone else in the country is out of summer season, you can still enjoy the perks of summer without dying from the heat in peak summer.
Or cold. I mean, people
or
it's
cold.
choppy. It's choppier, but I've been out on the lake in the middle of January, February.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's still doable.
Oh, yeah. Those are perfect times to go.
So I guess I won't hate on Arizona as much.
So the coffiners know, and maybe they don't know about the weather here in Arizona. We have just broken the heat. I think we've had 115 consecutive days of 100-degree weather or hotter.
Ew.
I know. And finally it broke.
I take it back. Arizona was horrible.
Yeah, great.
Speaking of weather, and it almost went to 116 because we went to 99 degrees on day 116.
Yeah.
So it was really close.
I think it's funny because you look at the weather forecast and you see the high is 89. And we think, wow, that's cold, or that's not hot at all.
Luxury.
That's doable.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at Gilbert's forecast for next week, and you're still in the hundreds. Oh my gosh. I ask this every time I talk to you, but why do you still live there? I guess I should start asking Scott.
I like Arizona.
Scott likes Arizona.
Yeah, I like it.
Do you want to be in Arizona long term?
I'd be fine with wherever anything takes me. I think going back to your summer comment, it would be nice to have, because I love fall. I love fall. It's like, I say that it's like the Thursday of the week for seasons.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. And
Thursday is the best day.
Thursday is my favorite day of the week.
Me too.
Because Friday is right around the corner. You've passed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
We never talked about this, Scott. I
how we've never
talk about this all the time.
Yeah, and so you have.
I got something new with my brother. We got another thing in common.
Yeah. But you have, you have Halloween right around the corner, and then Thanksgiving, and then Christmas. And so fall is just the perfect introduction to that. But I do hope, I wish that we had fall colors and a fall season kind of thing, because we don't really have it in Arizona. But that's
Scott, where I work, you can just drive down that street, and I mean, you see all the fall colors. It's really nice.
Really?
Huh. Yeah, they turned yellow and orange.
Okay.
So
really?
Yeah. I've shown you. Haven't I taken pictures? I think I've taken pictures and showed you guys those pictures.
Maybe.
Anyway.
Yeah, we're going to need proof of that because I don't know if I believe it.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Dad, those trees are plastic.
Those what?
They're fake trees.
Oh, that's what they're doing. I thought they were stringing lights, but they're stringing leaves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, my gosh.
What about you, Holly? What about your week?
My week was good. I had first week of a new job.
Good.
It was great.
Yes.
That's always a really exciting time. It's all that insufferable onboarding videos and stuff, but I'm really liking it so far, and I really like the people around me that I work with, which is great.
Do you want to tell them what you do, but I want you to use the answer that you gave me when I first asked you. Do you remember what you said?
Please keep in mind that owners might be listening.
Okay. Here's the thing is I texted Scott and I said, Scott, I got the job. And he replies with, what are you selling?
Oh, okay. I did say that.
And so naturally I replied with that I sell Beanie Babies, right?
That's correct. So let's just say that.
Oh my God.
So you still
Yeah.
babies.
I'm still at Beanie Babies, having to watch a lot of HR trainings for it, but it's been great so far. I already have a collection started.
Does one of the slides on the video say Beanie Baby 44 sold out, not returning, sold out, sold out,
Sold out.
do not offer, sold out.
Oh my gosh. Yep.
Yeah.
It's like you've seen him. But the most important part of my week is that we installed a little cat door in our window so that Nelson and Maybe can come in and out as they please.
Are they enjoying it?
Yeah.
Are they
both
kind of apprehensive about it still?
Yes. Nelson is incredibly scared.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just normal. He's scared of everything. Maybe can go out, but she's scared to come back in. But this morning, yep. She doesn't know if it's the right house. I don't know. This morning, though, they both went out and came back in. So
nice.
Progress.
Are you worried about them going out on their own without you knowing?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of. I'm a little worried, especially because yesterday a dog, the neighbor dog, it's a big pit bull. And honestly, I have nothing against her because she's so sweet. But she saw Maybe and chased her up the tree. And I'm not kidding. This is a big tree. Maybe was at the top of the tree. It's like that's a little bit of overkill. But we had to borrow our landlord's ladder. They were nice enough to help us get her down. And she was so tired and so scared. She's just clinging to the branches the whole time. Was she still
shaking when you grabbed her?
Yeah, she was. Caden brought her in and she just came right up to me and just sat down on me and just started purring because she's so scared.
I'm okay. I'm
fine. I'm not dead. Yeah. But anyways, that was my week. So it was good. It was really busy, but it was a good week. Nice new start to things and exciting things are happening.
Good. And so your exciting next 2 weeks will be build upon the first week.
Yep.
And putting into play the things you're supposed to have learned the first week.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. I wasn't paying attention at all.
Oh, geez.
Oh, geez. Oh, no. I'm just kidding.
Just kidding.
No, I really like it. I'm really excited to get deeper into it. But let's give the people what they want and let's be skrank.
Or fraught.
Or fraught with questions.
Or fraught.
That's right.
For those who are fraught with questions, let's be skrank.
Nice.
Not bad, Holly. I think it would be cool to kind of jump in. You said that you could say more about the first thing that we're kind of talking about in that introduction, that family came by to see you. They just wanted to check in, things like that. And my thought during that specifically was I was trying to think of another profession that would happen in.
Where there's typical stereotyping?
Oh, no, but where a family would come back and actually see you, or maybe, in the industry, you call them families that you work with, but like clients, as in, I mean, not really, unless if the business, I feel like in most other companies, if the business relationship ends, you don't really
come back,
keep in touch. You don't really touch base with them anymore. But in this industry, I think that's interesting. So you mentioned that you had a few other things. Why don't you tell us what that would be?
Okay. So yeah, going back to that comment, Scott, with regards to individuals just coming in and visiting with you, that I guess in retrospect, as I've started to think about it, I guess it is kind of unusual. But let's go back to the original question with Holly's friend or emailed question about why are diggers or undertakers so stoic, so non-laughable or whatever. And if you think about it, whenever you look at movies and stuff where the funeral directors are involved, they're always stereotyped as someone that's just to the point, no laughter, no joking at all. And I have worked with a few of them, and I will tell you a story of one one in particular that comes to mind. And I remember thinking back as I watched him interact with the family, thinking, wow, if you're not the most stereotypical funeral director I've ever met in my life. So he comes out just straight as a board. And it's almost like he's being manipulated by a puppeteer walking into the foyer area, if he can get a visual of that. Okay. He walks up to the family and he says, "Hi, I'll be helping you today with your loved one's funeral arrangements." And the guy immediately said, "Is there someone else that we can talk to?" And he goes, "Is that a joke or is that a serious question?"
Oh my goodness.
And just now, I'm using the tone that he is using as he's speaking with the family. And so the guy looks at him and he goes, "Well, I just need, if I'm going to sit and talk with you, I need to be able to know that you can interact with a better manner than what you're interacting with." And he's pretty straightforward. This guy was. And so my friend just said, "Yeah, maybe it would be better if we tried to find someone else."
Oh my goodness.
And I was just standing there and he goes, "Hey, Frank, come over here." He didn't say, "Hey, Frank, come over here." He just said, "Frank." And he motioned me over, just waves his hand over. And I go walking over and I go, "Hi." I'm just my regular bubbly self. And he looks at me and he goes, "Are you going to be able to interact with me a little better than your friend?" And I said, "We can try." So we went in, and within 5 to 7 minutes, we were laughing and joking. And my friend was just standing there in the doorway. And he couldn't understand exactly how we were able to.
Jealousy in his eyes.
Maybe he couldn't understand how I could go from a point A with him being told that he wanted to speak with someone a little different with a little bit more ability to interact with him, as opposed to the friend that was standing there. And he shook his head after, we were laughing within the first 5 to 7 minutes, and he just kind of gradually just walked away. But there are some people that don't like that. And I'll be honest with you, there are people that will and want to be very serious when it comes to the death of a loved one and in the planning of that funeral or cremation, whatever the case might be. And so sometimes they'll get offended at that. But by the time the arrangement is over, if they were offended to begin with, they're joining in towards the end, because I think laughter truly is a good medicine to help people, I guess, just overcome or be able to look at a situation in life in a different light. And so I think that does allow them the ability to move forward. So, but there are those, and I always think of Lurch from, is it the Addams Family? Truthfully, there are some that he's lurkish. That's the description that employees would use with one another. That, he's lurkish. We all know exactly what that means. So, yeah, it would be interesting to know the coffiners' experience with the funeral director. And I know that, Holly, you had that question come to you, and that should hopefully answer that question a little bit.
I think growing up too, whenever any of my friends would connect the dots and realize that you're a funeral director or mortician, they're like, "Really?
Yeah, see?
Frank?"
Yeah.
Yeah, there is definitely that stereotype there, and you just don't fit the mold.
And then the comment, then the comment usually is, "I would never have guessed that."
I think that is interesting, though, to have, because it certainly is, and you do want the family to feel as comfortable as possible when they're making those arrangements. So having multiple people on staff that could, and it's not like you are joking all the time. If you see that from a family and you perceive that they want it to be a little bit more serious, then yeah, I'm sure you can adapt to that. But
and it's interesting. We usually within the first 2 to 3 minutes of meeting a family, you know exactly where you can take it and how far you can go with it.
So I feel like we can take this in this direction with this episode. One of the questions is, do you have a favorite funeral related joke?
I think the one that I kind of hinted towards when what was it? Improvements for You. The one sign, "We'll be the last to let you down." I love that. I love that joke. "Hey, your funeral? Yeah, we'll be the last to let you down." One of those.
You have used that before.
I have, yeah. And I think I got it from my friend. I think another of my favorite jokes was the other one where the hearse going up to the cemetery and the back end opening up. Yeah, even when we went to the service yesterday, I had the fictitious one help me put the casket in the back. And I said, make sure the pin's locked in.
Did she get it? Did
I
she
think
get the joke?
she got it. Yeah.
That's good.
So I don't know that I have there's handshake jokes, and I don't know if you're familiar with them at all, but you can actually take someone, when you shake someone's hand and you squeeze it like a heartbeat, and you say, yeah, I'm still alive. I'm still alive. I'm taking nourishment, or anyway, there's a number of different jokes that can be made with you.
There's that stereotype coming back. That's that weirdness that we were talking about before. I honestly don't know what that means.
Yeah, maybe we stay away from those ones.
The verbal jokes, I don't know that I've ever focused on them. I do like, not necessarily a joke, but the statement of when I finish helping a family, and the family will say something like, don't be offended by what I'm about to say, but I hope to never see you again.
Huh.
And that's something from them. But my response generally is, well, if you do come by, please walk in. I don't want to wheel you in.
Yeah.
So anyway, and that's maybe that's why people come back to see me. They said, like, hey, I'm walking in. Good, do it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I'd have to think on that one. It would be fun to actually go back through and see and remember some of the actual jokes that have been told regarding a undertaker, digger, whatever.
Yeah. You have a certain pathologist that uses your building that he always has a new, it seems like he always has a new joke, and he will tell you every time he comes in.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's a repeat, and so you just have to kind of laugh at the joke, even though you heard it before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which isn't too bad. They're pretty good.
Careful, Dad. He listens to this podcast.
He might. Who knows?
Have you ever had an experience that made you stop and think, okay, that is a first?
Yeah, a couple of have actually been mentioned in podcasts. The parachute behind the funeral coach, that's a first. This has never happened again, never will happen again, I'm sure. So there's that one. The individuals bringing in a person that passed away on a bike. So because he was a biker, touring biker. I don't know exactly the term that they would use, but they brought in his touring bike and had that set up next to the casket. Golf clubs set inside of casket, also in hands positioned. Oh, that's another episode. We should do that one. Hands positioned in such a way that you would look at it and you would just think, well, why is hands positioned that way? And the only way you would know why they were positioned that way is because the family specifically asked that the hands be placed that way, and you would have to ask the family.
Okay.
So that is definitely one we will tell and explain. But yeah, there are. I think that the one probably the most odd that I would look at and say, well, geez, I never saw that coming, was, okay, here's a perfect example of one that happened just a couple of weeks ago. We did the embalming, and the guy looked great. I thought he looked great. He's in his late 80s, 89 years old. The family, I always suggest the family come in to see them before the actual viewing, because if there's any changes that need to be made, I want to make sure that I have time to do them in an intimate setting, as opposed to when everybody's around you and, you know what I mean, in the midst of an actual full-blown viewing. So they came in and they looked at him and they, oh, he looks good, but could you add some wrinkles? I've never had that request. Add wrinkles. Yeah, because he looks really good. He looks youthful now. And that's the point. You know, sometimes with embalming, you want to make sure that the person, not make sure, but kind of allow the individual to get some youthfulness back, right? You don't want them to look like they were ravaged by cancer or something like that. You want them to look as best you can with the circumstance you have to deal with. And I thought that's what I had done with this man. But they looked at him and said, oh, he looks really good, but could you add some wrinkles? I said,
wow.
Okay. And so went back and threw bandages and taping, rubber, or not rubber bands, but Band-Aids. You pinch the skin, you pull it together, and you let the adhesive on the Band-Aids adhere for 6 to 8 hours. And when you release it, voila, you got you got wrinkles. You got wrinkles on the forehead. They wanted wrinkles on the forehead, on his cheeks, on his chin, and underneath his chin. He looked kind of like someone that had just gone through a major accident when I was getting all of his tissue pulled together to try and create wrinkles. But man, when they came back for the viewing the next day, oh my gosh, they were elated. I said, "Oh my gosh, he looks so good. This is Grandpa." Okay. All right. Yeah, glad to hear it. So that was kind of a weird one.
Well, here's the follow-up to that. Is that industry practice? Did you know how to add wrinkles before?
No, I just thought to myself, well, okay, if you want wrinkles, how can I do that? And so I'm just kind of going through my mind and thinking, how would I create a wrinkle?
Yeah.
So yeah, by the time I had finished, I had purchased 2 big boxes of Band-Aids and some gauze and obviously some needles, because you have to pop and reduce the tissue. So there is definitely crevices there. So it worked out really well. And I thought, oh man, I should probably patent that. Maybe write that one down. Yeah, I'm sure that no one has ever been asked to do that before.
Yeah,
it was very weird. Not weird. It was just different.
Yeah. And thinking back to some of the other episodes, you've been asked to do some weird things to make people look certain ways. I'm thinking specifically of that money one, where the family was looking for their mother's or their grandmother's inheritance.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one.
Their mother.
This is an interesting question. It is there a particular song or music genre that's unexpectedly popular at funerals? Or maybe not even unexpectedly. What do you see? What's used? Because a lot of families will want like a video created. They'll want some slideshow going on. Mm-hmm. So what kind of music do people usually like?
So I would think for the most part, it's kind of mellow, kind of tranquil, because you don't want people to become agitated. Most people are agitated anyway when they come to a funeral, even though they may not admit to it. There's either stressful, there's some anxiety there. And the more upbeat music you have, the more agitated people will become. So I would think that in my experience, the most commonly used music is the soothing, and it could be vocal or it could be just instrumental. But I think that, and when you get into the Latin community, mariachis is pretty big. And some of their music, most of their music is loud. And for those that aren't used to the mariachis, like you got Anglos or gringos that are there at the service, becomes you can tell that they are not expecting what they're hearing from mariachis. Just because it's a different culture, they're just not used to that. There are some, we just had a young man we had a memorial service for that was probably 23 when he passed away. And we had ZZ Top, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath. And I thought to myself, how do you know about Black Sabbath? Because that was a group popular when I was growing up. And but yeah, it was for before the service, and it was loud. They let it be loud, and people, when they heard the music, some wouldn't go into the chapel. They would just say, no, we'll wait outside. And then when the music stopped, they would go in, hear the service, and then the music started up again and they left.
Sorry, is that because it was this man's favorite type of music?
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of a memorial to him?
Yeah, it was actually on his last playlist that he had actually put together. And so that's what they thought there would be a fitting tribute for him to play or to have played at the funeral on a memorial service, was his last playlist. And I think his sister, because he wasn't married, his sister made it very clear at the very beginning, we're sorry if this offends some people, but we did find this on his playlist, and this was the last one he put together. We thought it would be fitting since he liked this music that we play it here. So there was about 10 numbers on his playlist, and so they played 4 at the beginning and then the balance at the end.
Yeah, very nice. I think I've been a part of a few services, or especially if someone has like made music, then they'll play some of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's cool.
It is. It's just, and remember, it's more of a fitting tribute towards, I've always said that funerals are for the living, but when you talk about music And something a little more intimate like that, as far as music, what people like to do, I think that it's probably fitting for the living to know a little bit more about the deceased through music, if that makes sense. And so music is one thing that I would never stop any family from wanting to play or have heard. I know that in our drive yesterday, I was telling Lisa, what music do I want played, Lisa? Who's playing it, Lisa, at my funeral?
What music do you want played at your funeral?
I said either Amazing Grace or Going Home by Bagpiper.
Yeah.
For some reason, I remember.
And then of course for the kids to sing. That's what I said.
Mm, what a shame.
Okay. What a shame. Well, that won't happen.
Can't get that one together.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, what were you going to say, Holly?
You play bagpipes, don't you?
No.
No,
What do you play?
He plays the accordion.
The accordion. That's what it is.
Yeah, and I could have been pretty popular in some of these mariachi bands.
You missed your calling.
I missed it. Dang it. Oh, well, that's all right.
That's funny.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
We'll do one last question. And I think it's related to the music one, but a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times there will be some sort of pastor, there will be some sort of message given, I guess maybe more on the religious side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, of course, the families that share stories and memories, and that's all good. But just going on a similar topic of the music that's used, what do you find is like a scripture or a verse that is used frequently if families say, oh, we want this to say on the back, or we want this poem, or we want this? Is there a common one that you see pretty often? And let's say, why do you think?
So there's two that come to mind. One's the Lord's Prayer, and the other one is the 23rd Psalm. I think those are probably the two most commonly used scriptures. There are some religions that will use scriptures out of Corinthians, and without going into a lot of detail, because I don't know exactly where it's located, but it talks about resurrection and how important the resurrection is, and how a body will be, or the spirit will be reunited with it. Maybe you would know it, Scott. Reunited the body, and that becomes the eternal hope of individuals. That would be allowing them to feel some strength, some buoyance in their own lives, recognizing that, oh my gosh, it's in Scripture, and so if we believe in Scripture, then that must be true. But I think the Lord's Prayer is probably the most widely used, and I think it's because, number one, it comes from the Lord, right? And so if it's the Lord's Prayer, well, then why wouldn't that add more strength to an individual's life that's living, that's been left behind? In the 23rd Psalm, I think, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I think everybody knows that they're doing that every single day. I mean, you never know when you're going to die. You never know what's going to happen. And so the shadow of death is always lurking there. And I think that's a very in-your-face reminder of what it is that's taking place, why we're here in mortality, just to die. And I don't mean just to die, but that's one thing, that's a given, that's going to happen. As soon as you're born into this life, you're going to die. I think that those two scriptures are probably the most widely used, and those that are truly the more versed in Scripture will go to the one that's the reunification of the spirit and body in the form of a resurrection, allowing individuals that additional hope, letting them know that this isn't it, this isn't the end. There's actually more to come.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. And I think that is always a good reminder. You know, the music, the Scripture, things, anything that you do, I think it's always so great that you have stuff like that to find even joy in that, in something as sad as a funeral. And interesting, walking through, what was it?
Walk through the valley of the shadow of death.
The valley of the shadow of death. And I just thought, for, if that's like doom and gloom for anyone listening, you can't have, just the thought that came to my mind is, you can't have a shadow without some sort of light, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's always interesting to think about. You never know what's going to happen, but you always have this light of life, and that casts the shadow in the first place. So,
Well, the one thing behind it is that it says, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. I think it allows us the impact, the insightfulness of mortality, and yet knowing that, someone is there, someone who's probably already, not probably, has experienced what we're going through, and that help is there to help us carry through whatever situation we might find ourselves in, and death is one of them.
Yeah. And even if you don't see yourself as a religious person, there's still so much joy and there's still so much hope that you have, even in those difficult times and moments. So there you go. There's our coffin talking uplift for you. Hopefully it worked. I don't know if it did.
It did. Oh, for me. Oh, are you talking? Are you talking to coffiners?
I don't know.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I think that'll probably wrap it up. And Holly, I think you mentioned that you have got a story for us this week.
Yes, I do. And this story comes from our coffiner, Beth. So thank you so much for sending this in. She says that the story has less to do with spirits, more to do with faith and answered prayer. And she starts, but we also had a pretty cool memorial for my grandpa, Bob. My grandpas were college roommates and my grandmas were college roommates at the same Bible college. That's how my parents met. Their parents were all friends and ended up marrying each other. Smallest of worlds. My grandpa's names were Bob and Ed. When Grandpa Bob was ill at the end of his life, he stayed with my parents and we did a living memorial for him. We sat in my parents' living room, circled around him, and sang hymns and told him how he had blessed each of our lives. It was a very special experience because he actually got to be part of it and hear these words of love directly from us. Grandpa Ed led the service. Grandpa Bob passed away shortly after that. A couple years later, Grandpa Ed started going downhill, and we knew he was about to pass on too. My sister called me one evening sobbing. She was able to choke out that Grandpa wasn't going to make it through the night. I immediately broke down and started praying, asking God who would meet Grandpa in heaven. I don't know why this was my prayer, but it was an important question at that moment. Not even 10 seconds later, the date came to my mind. January 30th, 2013. 1-30-13. Why was that date now stuck in my head? Then the numbers from the date came together in Form 1, full number, 13013. Wait a minute. Can you see it? Bob. And you guys are going to have to really imagine this. 13 being the B, 0, O, and then 13 again being another B. Of course, Grandpa Bob would welcome Grandpa Ed into heaven. I couldn't believe it. She says, I am not a believer in numerology. I am not someone who is constantly thinking of numbers and how they are arranged and all of that. I think this was a small, special moment of closure and peace from God. It was so wonderful, and I could picture perfectly my sweet grandpas meeting up and joking around like old times, only this time for eternity. Isn't that cute?
I really like that.
I love that one.
Mm-hmm. Beth, I think it's interesting that I wonder if she saw that in her mind or if she had to write it down and then saw Bob. Mm-hmm. I think that is very cool. That is I think one of the most sincere letters that we've actually received, right? Regarding, and I agree with you about the numerology stuff, and I don't really delve into it, but there are times when you look at numbers and you think, oh my gosh, why am I seeing that number?
Right.
So I think it's very interesting that she would pick out the number or the name Bob, and how appropriate that she would recognize Bob. Maybe that's why he went first.
Yeah, maybe.
So it's easier to...
and it's just an immediate answer to that little prayer that she said, who is going to meet Ed? Mm-hmm. And then she sees these numbers flash in her mind.
Yeah.
That spells Bob.
Yeah, I think that's cool. Very cool. Anyway.
Scott, what did you think of that?
I also thought it was cool. And it made me think of something that one of my friends, one of the people that I went to the lake with yesterday, I was meeting her for the first time. And so I was asking her about her upbringing, things like that. And she said there was one state that she grew up in, and that was her favorite place because they moved around, military family kind of thing. And she said, oh, I love this place to grow up the most out of any of them. And I said, well, why? And she said, well, I think she also said it was one of the number 2 places to live or something. And all the reasons that she listed for why it was such a good place to grow up and why it was so ranked so high was like really good schools, good safety, good events, good different things. And all of them were family related and family oriented. And so just hearing that story, and I feel like this is just something that, we might take for granted quite a bit, but hearing that it's so much good can come from these family relationships. And so just that feeling of Bob being able to welcome, was it Ed?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Bob being able to welcome Ed, and just that the idea that these relationships can be something more and can continue is a very nice and a very comforting thing. And you can kind of feel that. And you might not have the strongest family bond, but maybe this can be a moment to, this will be your invitation to reconcile, reach out to that person that maybe you've thought, yeah, I should maybe reach out to them. It's been a while since I've spoken to them, kind of thing. So maybe reach out or take your time with it. But I think it's a cool thing. And it's something that is, of all the things in this life, that is something that is very real, is the relationships that you have with the people that you love. So I think that's, even in those moments of passing, it can still be felt. And we've seen that a number of times with other stories that have been presented.
I will say one more thing, and then I'll let you close it out, Holly, but whatever you want to say. Beth, there was one thing that caught me off guard on your story that I truly loved, and I love doing this as a practicing nurse in geriatrics, was oral histories, and where you actually allowed these two individuals to be together and to hear compliments on their life and what it is they did. If coffiners, you would just take a moment and just record even a voice of a loved one, and think of the posterity that will affect years down the road. And even simple questions like, hey, Grandpa, what was your first memory of Grandma? What was your first memory as a child? Something like that. You would be surprised at the amount of information that is actually given and shared. So kudos to you, Beth, for allowing that atmosphere to actually take place prior to his passing. So very, very cool. Yeah.
And on that note, isn't it cool that Grandpa Ed led that service when Grandpa Bob passed away, and then Grandpa Bob was the first one to greet Grandpa Ed in heaven?
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of returning the favor.
Hello.
Hi. Remember me?
Welcome.
But on Scott's point too, I think as well, I think that it's very interesting when you just think about the logistics of living. It's so telling and cool how we're put on earth in family units. And that's the first people that greet you are your parents. And so I think it's very cool. And this idea of chosen family as well, if you don't have the ideal family dynamic, but just the people in your life that you love and that love you, that's really the most important thing in life. And I think Scott made a really good challenge to just reach out more.
I agree.
But with that, we will just go ahead and close this episode of Phone a Funeral with Scott and Frank. And
send in those questions.
Yeah, continue to send in questions.
And stories.
Stories, you can email us your stories at letsbefrank@coffintalkin.com. If you don't feel like emailing it, you can DM us on Instagram at coffintalkin or send us a voice memo. Totally happy to transcribe it for you. And we will see you next week.
Oh, hold on.
The other,
I love these.
Yeah,
I love these.
Does. Well, I was going to try to get in another this is special kind of thing, but
okay.
No, I'm just kidding. But Holly had also mentioned that there were, and this is just something to look out for, that there have been a number of questions about the Creepy Crypt series that was done recently. And so I think we will have an episode pretty soon dedicated to kind of looking a little bit more at that. So anyway, stay tuned for something like that. I didn't advertise it well at all just now. But
Oh no, I got it perfectly well.
okay, good.
Yeah, stay tuned. We have exciting things coming up, and you guys are going to love it. Okay, is anyone going to say anything else, or can I say we'll see you next week?
You just said it, Holly.
Well, just give it a shot and we'll see.
Coffiners, we'll see you
Okay,
next
wait,
week.
hold
Oh
on.
my gosh.
No, okay, roll. Yeah, did it.